What if the person you've been trying so hard to become is standing in the way of the person you already are? We live in a world that constantly tells us we need to improve, be more productive, more successful, more attractive, more confident, more disciplined, more accomplished, better, better, better. And somewhere along the way, many of us quietly began believing something dangerous, that we are not enough as we are. So we spend years trying to fix ourselves, reading more books, taking more courses, chasing more goals, hoping that one day we'll finally deserve peace. But Zen Buddhism asks a question that changes everything. What if nothing is fundamentally wrong with you? What if the suffering comes not from who you are, but from believing you must constantly become someone else? Tonight, I want to explore the Zen teachings on self-acceptance through quiet reflection, mindfulness, and modern psychology. Because perhaps the greatest transformation begins when you stop treating yourself like a problem to solve. Maybe you know this feeling. You accomplish something meaningful, but instead of celebrating, you immediately think about what still needs improvement. You finish one goal, and your mind creates another. You lose weight. Now you should be fitter. You earn more money. Now you should be wealthier. You become more confident. Now you should be more successful. The finish line keeps moving, and eventually life begins to feel like one endless self-improvement project. Modern psychology has a name for this, the arrival fallacy. The belief that lasting happiness exists just beyond the next achievement. But every arrival becomes another beginning, another expectation, another reason to believe you are still incomplete. Then gently asks, what if the problem isn't your progress, but your belief that peace lives somewhere in the future? Self-acceptance is often misunderstood. People hear the phrase and think it means giving up, becoming lazy, losing ambition, accepting unhealthy habits. But Zen teaches something much deeper. Acceptance is not the opposite of growth. It is the foundation of healthy growth. Imagine trying to help a frightened child. Would constant criticism help them feel safe? Or would compassion? We often offer more kindness to strangers than to ourselves. The inner voice becomes a relentless critic, always pointing out flaws, always demanding more. Zen invites another way. Meet yourself with the same patience you would offer someone you deeply love. Not because you have finished growing, but because growth happens more naturally in an atmosphere of acceptance than one of shame. Here is the quiet contradiction. We chase self-improvement, hoping to finally like ourselves. But if self-improvement is fueled by self-rejection, no achievement will ever feel enough. Because the mind that says, "I'll accept myself when," simply moves the condition again. When I lose weight, when I get promoted, when people admire me, when I stop making mistakes. Zen calls this chasing an illusion. The self you are trying to perfect is always changing, like water, like clouds, like seasons. Yet the mind wants something fixed, something permanent, something finally worthy. And because that moment never truly arrives, suffering continues. Imagine waking up tomorrow and no longer believing you have to earn your worth. You would still learn, still grow, still work hard, but your efforts would come from curiosity, not fear, from joy, not inadequacy. Zen teaches that a flower does not bloom because it believes it is broken. It blooms because blooming is its nature. Human beings are not so different. Growth becomes more peaceful when it arises from love instead of self-criticism. You stop fighting yourself and begin walking beside yourself. There is a Zen saying, "When I was seeking, I could not find. When I stopped seeking, I discovered what had always been here." This points to a profound truth. We often search outside ourselves for what can only be experienced within. Modern psychology echoes this idea. Studies on self-compassion show that people who treat themselves with kindness are often more resilient, more motivated, and better able to recover from failure than those driven by harsh self-criticism. Why? Because shame narrows the mind. Compassion opens it. Zen has always known this. A peaceful mind learns more easily than a frightened one. Perhaps you don't need another version of yourself. Perhaps you need a different relationship with yourself, because the person you've been trying to fix has also been carrying you through every difficult day you survived. Somewhere in your mind, there may be a perfect version of you. Always calm, always confident, always disciplined, never anxious, never afraid, never making mistakes. But that person does not exist. They are a mental image. And every comparison between your real self and that imagined self creates unnecessary suffering. Zen invites you back to reality, not perfection. Reality, where growth is slow, healing is uneven, and being human is enough. Zen finds beauty in ordinary things: a cup of tea, morning light, the sound of rain, a quiet breath. It reminds us that life is not waiting to begin after we become perfect. Life is happening now. And perhaps the ordinary version of you is already worthy of love, already worthy of rest, already worthy of peace. There comes a moment when every search grows tired. The search for approval, the search for perfection, the search for a better version of yourself. Zen calls us home. Home is not a place. It is the moment you stop running from yourself. You begin listening instead of judging, accepting instead of resisting, breathing instead of striving. That is where peace quietly begins. Perhaps you never needed fixing. Perhaps you only needed permission to stop carrying the impossible weight of becoming someone else. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to heal. But none of those things require you to hate who you are today. Zen reminds us that the oak tree does not rush to become taller. The river does not apologize for flowing slowly. The sky does not compare itself to the sea. Everything unfolds in its own time, and perhaps so will you. If this conversation resonated with you, tell us in the comments, what is one expectation you're ready to release about yourself? And what would your life feel like if you stopped trying to fix yourself and simply began to know yourself?